Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is John Jake Gaming on for Mike here, coming at you with a brand new episode of the NCSL Dynasty here on College Football Revamp within NCAA 14. We are closing in on the regular season, as we just have 4 episodes of regular season action left before we get into the weeds of who's going to compete for conference championships, and more importantly, who is going to compete for national championships down the line as well. So, gonna have a lot of great action in this episode. I will have multiple top 25 games that will be coming in your direction. And not only that, we will have some games that could have some serious intrigue in the conference and national conversation throughout the nation. So, should be a fun one. Got 16 nationally televised games your way. If you're excited for it like I am, I need you guys to go ahead and do me a massive favor. Smack that like button for me, and then also hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. I'll see you guys on the football fields around the country. Let's go get it. So let's go ahead and get the NCSL action officially underway here in week number 11. We start with a tri box where most notably we see Cal go on the road against the Oregon Ducks. But first we'll watch one of the biggest disappointments in college football this season, the LSU Tigers. They're on national television here in this episode, and they are taking on the Kansas Jayhawks, who are fighting for their bowl lives. They're fighting for the opportunity to be bowl eligible. They need to win this game in order to keep that dream going. Otherwise, that dream is going to die. That being said, early in the first quarter, LSU trying to put together a decent little drive. Down by the goal line, and is going to break a tackle. He's going to bounce it to the outside, and sure enough, Sean Callahan is going to score for the LSU Tigers. And that means LSU gets on the board. And get on the board in a big way. 14-0 being your score. As look at this run by Sean Callahan. Running over some defenders. Man, if he put that into the end zone, this crowd was going to erupt. That was some well-earned 10 yards right there. It makes it for a goal line situation. Quarterback's got all day to throw and finds the custom prospect, Travell Bankston, for a passing touchdown. First passing touchdown of the game for the LSU Tigers. And right before the half, they will also tack on a field goal as well. So, needless to say, LSU has dominated this game thus far, being up 24-0. And they're going to be looking for some more icing on the cake as late in the third quarter, going back to Sean Callahan. And Callahan, he has been a bowling ball all day long, averaging close to 7 yards a carry. I almost burped that. Sexy. Speaking of sexy, that's another touchdown on the score sheet for Sean Callahan. And they will 30-piece the Kansas Jayhawks on the way to a 41-0 victory that allows the Tigers to get back to 500 on the season. Meanwhile, we check in on that California team who's ranked number 21 in the country, going to Onsand Stadium and taking on the Oregon Ducks, who are also 5-3, but not getting the same amount of respect that you expect to see Oregon get in the national poll, in that national conversation. So Oregon looking to try to change some heads here in this one, as we got the FCS quarterback, Montrell Hawkins. He's got some time. He's going to throw this one up in the air, but it's going to be intercepted. Threw that up into double coverage. I'm not too terribly sure what he was thinking there, but Cal will have a chance to put points on the board before we get to the end of the first half, except that gets intercepted right back. Bad decisions by the quarterbacks there leads to back-to-back interceptions. You would think that we'll be in a Drake song with that kind of back-to-back, but Oregon will tack on a field goal in order to make this a 10-3 lead. So the upset alert is certainly alive and well, especially with this being a little bit more of a defensive-minded game than maybe what we originally anticipated. But Lamar Cox, able to find the back of the end zone, allows the California Bears to tie this game up. And then in the fourth quarter, Oregon trying to put it away. They had to settle for a field goal, though. So Cal very much remains alive, depending on what they do with this 2-minute drill. First and 10 from about the 25-yard line. They're going to pitch it out. Got some running space on the outside. Breaks a tackle. Gets to about the 40-yard line. And that's a nice little run there for Todd Thompson, who has really struggled to find space today. but did it there. So they go into their no-huddle offense because of that, and they're going to drop back the pass this time. Looking over to the left-hand side again, this time getting out of bounds, able to save some of those timeouts. They might come into handy later on in the drive, especially if they got to figure out how to get it 4th and 1. They do a bubble screen on the outside, and it works to perfection. Tim Thomas is going to score for the California Bears. They hit the extra point as well to take the lead. And now Oregon with one last gasp. Hawkins throws to the left-hand side, but throws it into double coverage yet again. And those 4 turnovers that Oregon had were just absolutely bone-crushing, as California is going to be able to narrowly survive this upset bid, only winning by a single point. Now, speaking of top 25 teams, we'll see if Syracuse can avoid the same fate and handle their business against a solid Boston College football team. Should be a solid Conference USA matchup that will be in the works, as number 22 Syracuse is looking to get the first points on the scoreboard, as Jacob Butler throws over to the left-hand side, does find a Kyle Jackson right before getting out of bounds, making it easy. First and goal opportunity, where they decide to pass the ball, but using the legs of Jacob Butler, he's going to fall into the end zone, and that allows Syracuse to take the lead for now. They're going to be up 7-0. As for later on in this game, 7-0 ball game, going to run it up the gut, running low on running backs, so they've been relying on other wide receivers which usually don't get into the game too much. They got a 7th of his backfield because of the number of running backs that have been getting hurt. So that being considered, they go back to A.J. Jones, who does have those natural hands coming in to the college level as a wide receiver. We'll see if they actually bring a running back in. It looks like they might have, but he's going to be used as a decoy, as Jacob Butler is going to run it in himself. That's his 6th rushing touchdown of the season. You want to talk about a guy who could be on his way to having a 1,000-yard season on the ground. Jacob Butler could certainly be that guy. He has been one of the most dynamic running threats in college football, and allows Syracuse to take a 17-7 lead. But Boston College, they are here at home, and they're trying to get to bowl eligibility here today, and trying to get a signature win as well in the process. Score here would make it just a 1-possession game, as a critical 3rd and short. Got some time to throw his ball, but eventually finds a man in the middle of the end zone, and Victor Cross throws his 2nd touchdown of the game. Matter of fact, in the 4th quarter, we got a time ball game thanks to that particular field goal as well. So think about the zeros on the board between both teams. Whoever wins the 4th quarter will ultimately win this game. So Jacob Butler understands that, as he does lead the Orange back into the red zone once again. He already has 2 rushing touchdowns on the afternoon. As now Butler drops back. He's got a clean pocket this time. Throws it over the middle. And Mike Weddle is able to do the rest of the work, as Syracuse does punch it in, giving them a 24-17 lead. Now Boston College needs a drive of their own. Less than 3 minutes left. Gonna pitch it out to the outside. Got a man across the 30. Gets to the 35. Still on his feet. And it's gonna be brought out of bounds, with Chuck Wiley getting a 22-yard run. Boston College off to a great start on this drive. Later on in the possession, though, again dropping back. Looks over the middle of the field. And just the pressure causing that interception, and that fat lady, oh, she could very well be singing right now. Especially if Syracuse get this field goal, it's probably going to be over. This was a 54-yard field goal attempt, by the way. Sinks it through. That's just an incredible leg, and you absolutely love to see that. Syracuse will end up winning 27-24 as they continue their above-average season in the Conference USA. But now we get another game on the docket. We now go to the Mid-American Conference. Notre Dame taking on Illinois. And Notre Dame looking to get the bowl eligibility, as they are sitting at 5-4, while Illinois could use this win in order to remain alive, and that would certainly also help them in order to keep themselves going in the Great Lakes Divisional Championship race as well within the MAC Conference. So we'll see how that turns out between these two teams. Low scoring game, by the way. We're getting to about last couple of minutes of this first half. Still haven't seen anybody get into the end zone yet. Hopefully that changes here as Ed Turner, he's going to throw one over the middle. He's got Andrew Jackson over the middle of the field, as the Fighting Irish will use one of their timeouts. So down to the last minute here, and it looks like Ed Turner out in open space just needs to break one tackle. He runs through him, and Greg Hunt is going to score. Touchdown for the Fighting Irish. And that will extend the lead for Notre Dame. And from that point on, Notre Dame just seems to take a firm grasp in terms of control of this football game. Midway through the third quarter, they're in a shot to go ahead and make this unreachable for the Fighting Illini on the road, as they have another first and goal situation. Throw into the right hand side, breaks a tackle, breaks another one, can't get through a third, but Landon Hogan inside the 1 yard line. They're on the doorstep. Turner fires and gets it to Tim Kemp, and Notre Dame was in control of that entire second half, and the Fighting Irish do get bowl eligibility. But we have even more games on the docket as we'll focus in on that southeastern part of the country. But one of the best games of the week that we have is Penn State and Washington. We'll check in on that later. North Carolina State, though, they are hosting the Duke Blue Devils. And while North Carolina State has had a mediocre season, well, they are in that divisional championship race. But Duke trying to keep it spicy. Not going to be moving to a bowl game this season, but this is one of your custom coaches, PJ McNair, who is the defensive coordinator of the Duke Blue Devils. And we'll see what his team can do here, trying to play spoiler for North Carolina State, who is in the hunt for the Carolinas divisional title. See who comes out of the Commonwealth division for this conference, but it's definitely been an open division here in the second half of the season. No one has been able to take in control yet. We'll see if North Carolina State could be that team as we get into the final seconds of the first half. Blake Fountain is going to throw a nice little touchdown pass in the back of the end zone that allows the North Carolina State Wolfpack to take the lead. But with less than 40 seconds left to play, why am I showing special teams? That means something's about to go down. How about this receiver in the open field? Brad Harden does eventually get caught from behind, but a great return by the Duke Blue Devils. We'll see if they can take advantage of it. 1st and 10 from the 35-yard line. NC State sends the blitz, gets it out to the receiver, who is now in the red zone. That's Ryan Sampson with the big-time catch. And now Duke's in business for sure, already in field goal range, but they're looking for a tie as Brad Cronin does get it inside the 5-yard line before running that good old read option, as Jameel Livingston will score for the Duke Blue Devils team. We got a tie ball game at the half. You know, that's the beautiful thing about rivalry games. You never know what could happen here at the end of the day, but you know, we got a good one here for sure, as North Carolina State, they have to retake the lead midway through third quarter of action. We'll see if NC State can use that as an opportunity to take control of this quarter. It seems like they do here. Another field goal attempt does go up, and it is going to be good. So North Carolina State is able to extend their lead. And it was just one of those games where it just seemed like Duke just ran out of gas here in the second half. They definitely played extremely hard in the first half, but while we're waiting to see what the final score actually ended up being, how about what we got out in the Bayou State? Louisiana Tech came in number 17 in the country, and they lose to the Ragin' Cajuns 27-30. So Louisiana Tech could be falling out of the top 25, but NC State does handle their business, win by 17 to keep themselves in the hunt for a division title. Now, that being said, we got a non-conference matchup between Florida out in the SEC Conference and South Carolina, who is now located in the ACC. And how about this dot to Scott Forrest? That was a tight window for BJ Peters, and BJ Peters able to get it through. How about that type of throw there? And it's going to spark Florida to get off to a really hot start. They're going to be up 14-0 early in this game. And South Carolina, at least early on in this game, having a difficult time handling the pressure. They are, in fact, folding as if they are a lawn chair, because Florida is going to extend their lead. They're going to be up 24-0 here going into this final quarter of action before we do finally see that South Carolina Gamecock team finally find the end zone. Derek Davis really struggling in this one. A completion percentage that is under 50%, which is atrocious for today's rules in college football, but they will try to go for the 2-point conversion. That is, of course, no good. So Florida will try to finish strong here with 4 minutes left in the game. BJ Peters sitting strong in the pocket. He's going to find his receiver on the crossing pattern. That is going to actually be his 3rd touchdown today, as that is a very sexy burp in the background. But Florida's going to win big, 31-6, as they're a pretty good team out there in the state of Florida. Now, that being said, we go into our top 25 matchup, and it's actually a pretty snowy one out here in the state of Washington. In the state of Washington, we have the Washington Huskies coming in ranked number 12 in the country. Well, they will be taking on the number 10 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions. A rare non-conference matchup that we get to watch here late in the regular season, as Penn State is going to start out on defense, but then they get ran over on defense to start things out, as Adrian Nichols is able to take it for a 26-yard run. And that strong Washington rushing attack is going to will them into the end zone, as Jason Smith is going to score. So Washington is going to take the first points on the board, as they do so with just a couple of minutes of the ball in their hands. And then later on in the first quarter, we'll see this passing attack do a little bit of work. Jason Smith finding the running back Sean Terrell out of the backfield. And those Penn State linebackers, they could not stay with him. As, I mean, look where he was. For a guy like Jason Smith, this was wide butt naked open. So Penn State is down horrendous right now in this first quarter of action. Down 14-0 already! And it looks like it's going to get worse. Running down the sideline, got some space. Henry has to bring him down, but a critical interception that Willie Upshaw just got right there. I mean, that was just an incredible play by the DB. Nothing much that you could really do with that. But that being said, Washington has yet another red zone opportunity, using that option attack, getting it out to the outside for Adrian Nichols. And that's another touchdown for Washington, who puts up a 20-piece in just the first quarter of action alone. It has been a slaughter. And things don't get much better for Penn State throughout the rest of this game. We'll see Adrian Nichols punching in there yet again. And this was a game that the Huskies dominated from start to finish. A 42-point win against the number 10 team in the nation. Now, we do have some time here to get some studio updates in. And how about Virginia Tech? Proving that they are indeed a top 25 team. They blow the doors off of Wake Forest 52-7. Virginia Tech having an excellent season, as they're now going to get to 8-2 here in this second season campaign of the NCSL. And then in other news, we have a massive upset on our hands, as Texas is going to lose their first game of the season. They lose to UTEP by 28. So that is a massive blowout that we just witnessed there. But we'll go back to the actually nationally televised games throughout the NCSL. We'll go out west to check out a surging BYU squad who does have a chance to, really take control of the Mountain West here in the second half of the season. Maybe make it to that conference championship game. As here we go, we're taking on Utah State. Utah State honestly won a couple more games than I thought that they were going to get, as at least on paper, this is the worst offense in the country. And, well, it's been bad. It actually hasn't been the worst offense in America. So imagine that, as Utah State actually does have the lead briefly, but Jonathan Scott will take it right back because their kicker was actually able to make an extra point. Imagine that. So late in the first quarter, BYU still only up by 1. They're going to run it up the gut with Tim Bell. I mean, it was just a wide open parting of the gates. Like Jesus with the Red Sea. So here we are, 14-6 being your score, as BYU, we're going to run it up the gut yet again. Going almost another score for Tim Bell. That would have been his second rushing touchdown of the day if he was able to punch it in. But instead, go be a 3rd and goal where they go right back to him. And this time, Tim Bell is not going to be denied. Tim Bell is going to score for BYU. And BYU, after the first quarter, after they got settled in, well, them boys went to work as they are on the verge of 40 apiece in the Utah State Aggies. Again, BYU, a team here in the last 4 games of the season, looking to, try to get themselves to bowl eligibility, all that good stuff, and I think it's going to happen pretty well here. BYU is going to win this game 49-20. They're above 500, and they're still in the race to win the Mountain Division in the Mountain West. Now, that being said, Baylor is playing host to the only team in college football right now that has not won a single game. They are taking on Texas A&M, who is 0-8 coming into this one. But jumping into the second quarter of action, we have a pretty interesting game on our hands. Texas A&M is actually up by a touchdown, and we'll see if Baylor can respond before the end of the half. Wes Jordan does already have the Baylor Bears in Texas A&M territory, as Wes Jordan, the custom prospected quarterback, calls his troops to the line, tries to throw the ball away, and just didn't put enough air under it. That should have been a throwaway. Instead, that is a pick six going the other direction, and that could change the entire course of this game, possibly Baylor tying to now Texas A&M with a commanding lead. Do they have what it takes to hold on and actually win their first game of the season to avoid being kicked out of the Big 12? One thing that I haven't really mentioned is if you finish a season 0-12, then you are in real danger. Depending on what independent teams are available at the time, they might be replacing that very team in the conference, right? So Texas A&M, they need to get a win at some point in order to avoid all of that. And it looks like Texas A&M, they're actually going to complete the upset. They're going to beat Baylor 41-28. Congratulations to the Aggies on finally winning a game this season. But now we go into some more top 25 action as the number 13 Auburn Tigers going to be taking on the Georgia Bulldogs in what is another non-conference top 25 matchup that we have on the docket here today, as we're getting ready to see both of these teams take the field. Georgia arguably looking like one of the most dominant teams in the country. They already took down the defending national champion, so if things go the way that they want to, they should be hosting the SEC championship. But let's see if Auburn can put a wrinkle in those national championship plans, as Derek Alexander, well, he's going to realize why this Georgia team is so darn good. They are going to get a bunch of pressure early on, already forcing Auburn into a 3rd and long, as Alexander, trying to throw over to the left-hand side, throws it up into double coverage, and it's going to be intercepted. Derek Alexander just trying to make a play, and it looks like he might be rattled early on. I mean, I have no idea what he was thinking. The pressure definitely got to him there. And now Georgia will take over. Hands it off to their tailback, who finds a good running lane. Actually drags a safety for a few more yards. And it's going to be a 1st and goal opportunity to try to get Georgia on the board midway through the first quarter. The quarterback is going to run it to the outside, breaks a couple of tackles, and Andre Bryant will start the scoring for the Georgia Bulldogs, as a number 4 team in the nation shows that they got that lead for a particular reason. I mean, this was just a great run by the quarterback, making 2 guys, shaking them off the lemonade stand. And now Georgia has the lead for now, as they'll go back to that option. If it's not broke, why fix anything? And it's easy to see why. Andre Bryant just shaking defenders off. You think he's at a T-Swift concert, the way he's shaking off Auburn defenders. And then just the poise to be able to find Lamar Cobb as well. Lamar Cobb will extend the lead for the Georgia Bulldogs. They'll take a 14-0 lead through the end of the first quarter, as Auburn, maybe there's certainly a gap between that top 5 and then, maybe some of the other teams in the top 25 looking for another touchdown. Just a throwing the ball up for Zach Grigsby. And that's when you know that everything is going your way, when you can throw that time a ball up into the air and your receiver's going to come down with it. I mean, not a great decision if we're being honest here, but hey, different strokes for different folks. I mean, if it works, can't complain about the final result, even if it might not be how you wanted to get there. but Auburn will eventually get on the board. They'll hand the ball off to Roy Gross here. He'll run the ball into the end zone. So Auburn is finally on the board, but if they're going to want to come back into this game, they're going to need to get some more points on the board, obviously, and then also get some stops on the other end, as this should certainly help them out there. Leroy Mark, really part of that 10 toes down moving, is going to get the touchdown here, as that was a beautiful throw by Derek Alexander. Only threw it to a place where his receiver can get it, and the receiver also made a great play on the ball as well. So Auburn is right back into the game, only down by 7, but less than 40 seconds left. He finds the FCS transfer, Reggie Patterson, in the back of the end zone, and Andre Bryant just having himself a day in the first half. That is his third passing touchdown of the first half, and now Auburn needs an answer. Last play of the first half, and what do? You throw another interception. This could be trouble. Roy Gross can't bring him down, and he's gonna be gone like a girl in a country song. Touchdown, Georgia. Eric Jackson is gonna take this one back to the crib, and Sanford Stadium is absolutely electric right now, just demolishing the Auburn Tigers, as Georgia will take a 35-14 lead into the halftime locker room right now. 35-17 being your score as we jump midway through the third quarter of action. Bryant again looking over to the left-hand side. He finds Lamar Cobb for another big-time throw downfield. And could we see Georgia possibly go for that 50-piece? Bryant looks to the left-hand side and finds Lamar Cobb again in the back of the end zone. Touchdown, Georgia. Andre Bryant just having an excellent performance so far. That was a dime, and that's going to be that's his fourth passing touchdown of the day. But not by any means a perfect day for Andre Bryant, though. I do want to point that out, as he did end up throwing a couple of interceptions in this game, but unfortunately the Auburn offense just wasn't very helpful today, and when they weren't turning the ball over, well, let's put it this way, they certainly were not settling for punts all day long. So Georgia wins this game convincingly. They win 48-24 in what is considered a rivalry game. So that means that Georgia will be one of the first teams in the country, actually, to get to that 10-win mark here in the regular season. So now we got a chance to get some studio updates for you guys, and we do get a studio update score for Colorado and Arizona. Colorado going to play some spoiler here as they take down the Arizona Wildcats. 34-24 being your final score, and then UNLV also going at it against New Mexico, as UNLV is also seeking to stay in the top 25 as well. And speaking of those studio updates, we actually do hear back on that New Mexico and UNLV game. New Mexico actually is able to pull the upset off. They rally back 11 unanswered points, so UNLV will likely not be in the top 25 much longer. We'll see what that new top 25 poll is looking like. And in other news, Army might be in some danger, as Pittsburgh is able to snap their 7-game losing streak. They do it against the number 19 team in the country on the road as well, and Pittsburgh wins by a field goal. Now, rounding out your studio updates, we see that Washington State will win 33-28, while James Madison, they will be bowl eligible after a 5-point win against Temple. But we do have a bunch of other games going into action here, as we have most notably the number 1 team in college football, the USC Trojans, going to work. But before we get into any event, we'll check in on another top 25 team that is really surprising a lot of people right now. Colorado State coming in ranked number 16 in the country. If they can win out, could they mess around and make the college football playoff? I mean, that's a legitimate question. You really never know what could happen, but through the first half, not a lot of scoring at all. Matter of fact, we don't see anybody get into the end zone until 2 minutes into the third quarter of action, and coincidentally, Colorado State will actually use that to take their first lead of the game. But if you got a hard-on for the kickers, man, this game was for you, because You know, both of these teams were able to get into the red zone today, but neither team was able to do much of anything once they were able to get into the red zone. So a lot of field goal settling in this particular game, but with 2 minutes left, Utah does have a chance to cut it down to a one possession game, and sure enough, they will do that. At least Utah will make things interesting here, as we'll see them. They actually don't get the onside kick, but they will get the ball back with 15 seconds left. Chance to possibly go out and win the game. It's just going to come down to what's going to happen these last couple of plays. A chance to pull the upset on the number 16 team, and it's going to be intercepted. So the fat lady, she's certainly going to be warming up those vocals, and you see those 000s on the clock. So Colorado State, they did not play their best game at all, but their defense that many people in the national media within the NCSL had concerns with, held Utah to 13 and found a way to win. So that being said, we have another rivalry game that could have some implications in Conference USA now. Hopefully this next game is a little bit more high scoring. We got Rutgers taking on Navy. Neither team ranked in the top 25, but these are two pretty good teams still. These are two teams that, could make some noise still in the Conference USA title race. Both these teams, of course, are a part of that Union division. As now, we got a first and goal situation. Navy going into that vaunted triple option offense. Yeonwon Hall is going to get the scoring started early in the second quarter as the midshipmen with their throwback unis. Well, they're actually going to take a pretty sizable lead. A couple of touchdowns off screen. Navy is able to provide some distance away from Rutgers, but Rutgers is trying to rally back. They are trying to get back into this game. They do inch a little bit closer here in that third quarter of action, but it feels like Navy just might be a little bit too much. Down by 18 going into the fourth quarter. Rutgers in their 4-wide set. Got a running back in the backfield to help with protection. Fires over the middle and finds Mike Reed in the end zone for a touchdown. They will also go for the 2-point conversion as well. This is to make it a 10-point game, and it doesn't work. They will not get the 2-point conversion. So Rutgers' comeback attempt is just going to be that much harder, especially as Navy is able to add yet another touchdown on the scoreboard. But hold up now. Wait a minute. Rutgers got an interception here, so things could get a little bit interesting. But yeah, needless to say, Navy's going to win convincingly 35-16 to keep them in the hunt for the Conference USA Championship. Now, that being said, we go over to Bedlam for the Bedlam Classic between Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Both teams are having down years right now as they both come in at 3-5 and really need this win in order to have a realistic shot of going to a bowl game. Neither team could really afford this loss right now, as Oklahoma, using that desperation, they're going to find the end zone first to get things going, take that 7-0 lead, and then later on in the first quarter, we'll also see Reggie Anderson get involved in the running game as well. So a passing and rushing touchdown for Reggie Anderson to get it started. Granted, our kicker did miss the second extra point, but that's besides the point. Oklahoma really came out and played with urgency. They came out ready to play, and Oklahoma State just didn't have that same urgency coming out in the early parts of this game, as Reggie Anderson, yet another touchdown for the Sooners quarterback. They ballooned this lead up to a 20-point lead at some point. And now Oklahoma State, they desperately need to get points on the board. 2 minutes left in the first half. They finally make that happen. Walter Hicks is going to score for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. And a last-second field goal down at the 5-yard line. Kick is up, and it's not the prettiest kick in the world, but it is going to be good still. Cuts it down to a 10-point game. So we saw Oklahoma played pretty well in that first half, but can they keep it up for 2 more quarters, though? That's why that they were at 3-5 is, just the lack of consistency from this team. They played good spurts throughout the course of the season, just haven't been able to put it together too many times, and that's why they're here at 3-5. But it looks like they might be doing it here as Reggie Anderson gets hit as he throws the ball, still able to get it to his receiver. Good for his second passing touchdown of the day. And speaking of Anderson, how about Anderson making lemons out of lemonade as Reggie Anderson almost picks up the first down there. Thought he was going to be dropped in the backfield, but instead a 2nd and short coming up as they go back to that running game as Leon Jackson trying to run it into the end zone. Still looking for his first score of the day. Maybe he'll get it here on this particular carry, as sure enough, it is Leon Jackson who is going to score for the Oklahoma Sooners, making it 34-10. It's been a dominating affair. Meanwhile, in the 4th quarter of action, Lou Munoz is looking to try to help Oklahoma State even things up. They go to Reggie Reed, not related to the adult actor. He's going to have to get his guys moving quickly. Goal line situation after the halfback screen. 1st and goal. First play in the 4th quarter. Looking over to the left-hand side. It's going to be a nice read option for Reggie Reed, who's going to score 34-16. And they'll try for the 2-point conversion too, which Munoz will get. So Oklahoma State trying to climb back into this game. But the Sooners trying to shut the door here at home. Throwing over to the right-hand side. And Reggie Anderson will lead yet another touchdown drive for Oklahoma. It's been a dominating affair, 41-18. And the Cowboys just lack of urgency in this one. As the Sooners, now at this point, they're probably thinking to trying to run out some of this clock. Or, this is a rivalry game, so I wouldn't be shocked if they tried to punch this one into the end zone too without running out the clock, because, listen, they're trying to get some style points. That's the name of college football. Only in college sport where style points actually do end up mattering. As we do get to that 3-minute mark, they start to finally run down some of this clock. But Leon Jackson also adds another touchdown to his resume as Sooners win 47-18. It was a dominating affair as the Sooners notched their 4th win in the year. So we now go to the defending national champions, the Miami Hurricanes, who are searching for their 10th win of the season as well. They go on the road in Boca Raton, Florida, down by the beach, take on this Florida Atlantic team. Decent Florida Atlantic team who's 4-4, and they're certainly in the hunt to go to a bowl game as well, so you love to see that. Miami trying to line things up here on a 1st and goal, trying to make this a 14-0 game. And hey, Mr. Carter, how are you doing? Well, he's feeling good considering he's got his 2nd passing touchdown of the day. But more importantly, the Miami defense really showed up today as Florida Atlantic, through a full half of action, has not scored. And that's a good thing because, there certainly was some rough moments for Casey Carter too, including that interception. One in which Florida Atlantic could very well take advantage of. They do finally get their first red zone opportunity of the evening. As now we got a 3rd and short coming up. Going to try to do a speed option over to the right hand side. He's got the blockers and willing his way into the end zone. He wanted that touchdown and he's going to get it. Florida Atlantic is finally on the scoreboard, but it might be too little too late though. The FAU defense, it was in that bend but don't break stance. Well, now it's starting to break apart a little bit, and I can easily see why, as Jared McBride, he's been doing what he has been doing. Breaks the school record that was previously held by Lewis McGahee. That is a flashback for those of you that are a little bit older. I remember watching Lewis McGahee play. But Miami's going to win big, 35-7 in this one. And they also will be getting their 10th win here in this episode. But now we finally get a chance to see the number 1 team in America, the USC Trojans. They are in conference action, taking on the Cardinal of Stanford. Stanford coming in at just 3-7 on the season, but Stanford might be a little bit better than maybe what their record shows. They might be a classic case of that. Stanford's part of a really difficult conference. This is a very tough conference to go out and win in, as they are actually currently the number 1 conference in America right now, according to NCAA. But USC, proving that this is why they're one of the elite teams in the country as well. Jason Clayton's going to score here for USC, and they're going to make it 14-0. And we're still in the 1st quarter too. USC, needless to say, been all over the Cardinal of Stanford. As we got another throw to the middle of the field to Robert Tucker. He's going to pick up a few yards there. Makes it a more manageable 2nd down as Ben Scott's going to make some checks at the line of scrimmage. Throws to the right-hand side. It says touchdown number 3. Not quite. Jason Clayton almost had his second touchdown today, but instead a goal line opportunity for the Trojans. Stanford trying to win at the line of scrimmage, but USC's offensive line just pushing back at Stanford. No push from the Stanford defensive front. And they're down 21-0 already. This is kind of what we expected so far in this game, even though, like I said, Stanford probably a little bit better than that 3-7 record. But needless to say, I mean, USC is just one of those teams that are on a mission. They were bounced early in the college football playoff last year, but hang on, this could swing a lot of the momentum as Stanford almost gets a pick 6. Needed a string tackle. Reggie Wright almost broke that to the crib, but Stanford now has some new life all of a sudden. 2 minutes left in the third quarter. Dropping back, looks over the middle, and that's a dot. Oh my goodness, is that a tight window that Matt Rouse just threw that ball in. So Stanford trying to get back into this game, but USC not making it easy, as Rouse did also have a man wide butt naked open in the back of the end zone, could not get it out to him, and USC is going to win this one 38-17. Trojans still number 1 team in the country. And now we're down to our final game that we have here in this episode. Alabama coming in ranked number 14 in the entire country. Well, they will be taking on the Bulldogs of Mississippi State, who need this win in order to remain alive for a bowl game. And that is a shame, because Mississippi State did start out as one of those teams ranked in the top 25 when we entered the preseason, but they have not lived up to those expectations, and Mississippi State just really looks like a team that has honestly given up on the season. If we're being completely honest, they're already down 17-0, but their quarterback will get them on the scoreboard eventually, though, as Jeremy Baldwin does run it in himself. Will get his offense out of the doghouse, and they'll try to make it a double dip, call it a Drake song, because Jeremy Baldwin's actually going to go back-to-back in this particular highlight, scoring 2 touchdowns in a row. So Alabama, they were off to a hot start, but now they got an interesting game on their hands, as they only take a 6-point lead into the half. And not only that, Mississippi State has a chance to actually take the lead, depending on what they end up doing on this particular drive. Here in the third quarter of action, Huff is going to get them to about the 15-yard line, as Baldwin lines up in the shotgun, hands it off to Huff once again, breaks a tackle, breaks another one, and the offensive line is going to help him move forward a couple more yards. Now it's very close to finding the end zone and taking their first lead of the day. They go to Huff because he's done all the work on this drive, and he will be rewarded with a touchdown score of his own. Mississippi State actually takes the lead, and it's Alabama all of a sudden who's on upset alert. Not only will they need a touchdown, they'll also need a 2-point conversion as well. So they do get that touchdown from Quinton Lake, but on the 2-point conversion, though, they're trying to run it up the gut, and Quinton Lake is going to be denied. So all Mississippi State's got to do is make Alabama use their timeouts, but they decide to throw. They decide to throw the football. What in the actual heck are you doing? You had the bag, and they are going to fumble the bag. Alabama is going to get a last-second field goal. 8 seconds left, and Alabama snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, or from Mississippi State snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Alabama wins this one 29-28 in a painful loss for the Bulldogs. But now we go and check around the country to check on some other scores around the NCSL. And how about this? The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, they will actually shock UCLA 30-27. Hawaii is not only going to be bowl eligible because of this big time win, but they are also going to be able to get into the top 25 for the first time in this series. As for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, they are continuing their grand season as they look to get into the college football playoff for the first time in this series. They do so by really putting the hurt on Iowa State, as Nebraska wins 52-10 to secure that double-digit win season. As for the Michigan Wolverines, they took on the Indiana Hoosiers and while it wasn't the most offensively dominating performance for the Wolverines, they still end up winning 24-10 in order to get to a very good 8-2 record. However, Indiana is still in the hunt to potentially go to a bowl game depending on how the last 3 games of the year go. As for Ohio State, the Buckeyes, first time though we didn't really see them on national television, and they took on their in-conference opponent, the Kent State Golden Flashes. Ohio State wins this game 38-28, and they are actually still undefeated on the season. Speaking of ranked teams performing pretty well, we got Arkansas, who takes care of San Jose State with absolutely no problems. They actually dominate the Spartans 34-0, as Arkansas going to 8-3, looking for that 9-3 regular season finish to get themselves to a very good bowl game, even if it might not be in the college football playoff. Now, for the Rice Owls, they rebound off their first loss of the season by going on the road and take down the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa University. Rice continuing an excellent season as they win 31-19, and the Owls are now 8-1 after this win. And of course, we have the Tulane Green Wave, who have silently put together a strong campaign. They've now notched their 7th win of the season after taking down the Memphis Tigers 33-21, as Tulane continues to climb in the top 25 polls. And speaking of the coaches poll, this is what it's looking like now, as we are now down to just 3 undefeated teams left here in the regular season. Those 3 teams are USC, Ohio State, and Georgia, although we do have teams like Ole Miss and Miami move up a spot. In terms of other movement in the top 25, we got Nebraska, big time win against Iowa State, so they move up a couple of spots to number 6 in the country. Washington, probably with the statement of the week, they beat Penn State 49-7. It was an absolute bloodfest. Washington is able to move up 5 spots because of that, with Minnesota moving up 1 in spite of being on the bye. Now, rounding out your top 10, we got Michigan at number 9, and then Texas with their first loss of the season. They fall all the way down to number 10. Not a lot of respect given to that UTEP loss. Outside of the top 10, meanwhile, we got the Alabama Crimson Tide at number 11 in the entire country. Rice moving up a few spots as well. They're up to number 12. UCLA taking a shocking loss in overtime against the Rainbow Warriors, so UCLA is down to number 13 in the nation, whereas Colorado State struggling against Utah, who moves up a couple of spots themselves. Going to the bottom half of the top 25, though, we got Penn State with their 2nd loss of the season. Well, they fall 5 spots after a disgusting loss. Arkansas moves up 2 with a shutout win against San Jose State. As for the Cougars of Washington State, they move up 3 spots after a close win against San Diego State. Same thing with Cal. They were in a close one against Oregon. And rounding out your top 25 is Syracuse at 19. UTEP, who is going to make their very first appearance in the top 25. It's about time UTEP got some respect. Tulane is at 21. Virginia Tech at 22. And your last 3 spots go to Hawaii, Auburn, who's still here in spite of a 3-possession loss to Georgia, and Navy, who is again back in the top 25. They've been bouncing in and out. So it's been an absolutely electric regular season, but only 3 more episodes of regular season action before we get into postseason play. We've seen many grand nationally televised games so far this season, and it's been fun to watch so far here in year number 2. Will it remain going? Who is going to solidify themselves as a college football playoff team, or even a contender as a conference championship? Find out as we get closer to those questions and much more, as next time out we will have week number 12 of the NCSL Dynasty here on NCAA 14. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure you go ahead, smack that like button for me. Also, hit that subscribe button as well if you do happen to be brand new to the channel. This is John J. Gaming on the mic signing off. Hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Take care, everybody.